This is Kim Andrews,
And Molly Wade.
and this is Swimming in the Deep End for deep healing and peace.
We are here to have courageous conversations about our journeys so that we can all create lives overflowing with freedom and joy.
So here we are for part 2 of Molly's story.
Part 2.
The recovery healing part.
Yeah.
The work.
The work.
The work, the work, the work.
We have a saying in recovery where the rubber meets the road. And here we are, putting the paddle in and doing the work and swimming. So I guess just a little recap. If you haven't listened to part 1, I encourage you to go listen to part 1. And you'll be able to hear a little bit about how I grew up and things that transpired that have led me down this path and where I'm at right now. And so today we're just kind of talking about, want to dig in more into the path I'm on now. About a little over a year ago, started attending Unity Spiritual Center here in Saxe from a recommendation from my amazing therapist. Said, hey, go check this out. It may be a good thing for you. And it was, and it has been, and it will be. And really over the past, I talked about my life kind of in my early 20s and getting to Texas. And I stopped at that point, and things continued on just very survival mode, working whatever odd end jobs I could find, wasn't focused on school or really didn't have any purpose or goal, just survival. Therapy off and on, all these things, still seeking out spirituality and religion and trying to figure out where I fit in, and really having the mindset of wanting acceptance in that during that period more than discovering. And so that went on really until about, say, 6-7 years ago. So I haven't been on this new journey, this new path for a very long time. Short compared to my past. So really, like I said, 6 years ago, digging into beliefs. So I talked about in episode 1, these core beliefs that if you believe that you're born with or that you're taught, however you come about them, really being able to question them. Right. So allowing myself just the freedom to question was the starting point. Giving myself permission to say, you know what, it's okay if I don't have the answers. And it's okay if I take what I thought and reevaluate it or evaluate it really for the first time. I took a lot of things in over the years in my early 20s, just be at face value because someone said, I should buy this red car or I should, try this new thing. I was like, okay. I didn't want to make decisions. I didn't know I could make decisions. And so about 6 years ago, through different forms of recovery and therapy and help and self kind of exploration, getting to a place where I wasn't in toxic relationships. I wasn't being abused. That has stopped and things have changed a lot in that aspect, and found some really good jobs. And my current job I've been at for 5 years now is fantastic, and went to college. All these things, during these years have transpired that have helped my life. However, it was all surface level. I was doing what I thought I needed to do, education, and those things are good. And again, it wasn't until 6 years ago that I really wanted to kind of consider, should dig a little bit deeper and, what does that look like? And I became willing. I think that's a good word to use, is willing to do the work. I wasn't sure what the work was. Some days I still don't know what it is, but became willing to at least seek out whatever it was. I don't even know if I knew what I was seeking. I just knew there was something missing. There was something I needed. I wanted to know, learn, find out, whatever that was. I don't know if some of you have had that moment where you just know there's something to be learned and you're going to go seek, until you find it, until you get in a place. Like when I came to Unity, I was like, oh, this is where I need to be. This is it, for me. And that's what I need in this moment at this time in my life. So 6 years ago, giving myself the power and the choice to say, maybe my value isn't correlated to a price tag. What an idea. And that was a huge mind shift for me because that's what it's always been. So a lot of little questions like that. Well, not so little, but questions kept coming up and just made me wonder. So
Wondering's healthy, and especially if you can stay in the question period and not have answers, like you said. A lot of people, and I know I was originally, every time I was questioning something, I wanted answers and I wanted them quickly. And sometimes they don't come quickly. And that can be one of those uncomfortable places where you are just questioning and you don't know anything close to any answers yet. You just
Right.
know that you're willing to be open and to stay open until something comes to you. And I learned to be comfortable with an answer for now, and I'll look at this and I'll try this. And if this doesn't work, I'm willing to ask the question again and shift. And I know you've done that over the years. You continue to do that.
Haven't always been willing to do that.
Neither have I.
And, and more recently, really being able to get to that place of accepting that I may not have it all figured out. And I think a big part for me, just in daily life and on this journey where I'm at right now, and kind of, tying in things from my past, it was always taught, you can't do it right the first time. Why are you even doing it? So I've taken that belief literally into a lot of areas of my life, including beliefs. And well, if I don't have the answers and it doesn't make sense and I can't figure it out, I'm just not even going to attempt to change or to figure it out, because what's the point if I can't have that answer right now? And like you said, kind of getting to that point of accepting, oh, this is where I'm at right now, and it's okay if it's going to change, and being okay with that. And control can be an issue because I want to know the outcome. I want to know how it's going to happen, how it's going to look, why it's going to look that way. And like I said, over the past 6 years, really being able to start looking at that and going, it's okay if I don't know the outcome, and not associating my unknowing to being bad. So if I don't know, it's going to be bad. That's not true. Sometimes things are unfortunate, but that's not the case all the time. Just because I don't know doesn't mean what I don't know is bad. It could be something good.
Yeah, it's not a failure.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a failure. And I had to stop judging things as failure for me. And I started celebrating the fact that I was not doing the things that were unhealthy and in unhealthy relationships. And I'm doing something better now. I may not know what it is or understand it 100%, but I know I'm not back there anymore. And that was a reason to celebrate.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's been another thing, just kind of where I'm at, is working on celebrating the victories, even, when that old belief pops up that I don't deserve to celebrate, or it's not worth celebrating because it's not complete. So why would you prematurely celebrate something? You haven't finished it. And like, that is almost automatic sometimes in my head. Like, wait a second, who said I had to finish this to enjoy the progress?
Yes.
And that's still a struggle. It's like, reminding myself, things are different, and that's a good thing. And I can be proud and excited of where I'm at. I don't have to slip back into that negative thought process. And that's taken work. There are so many things I didn't even realize subconsciously I had believed about others, believed about myself, the world around me, that negatively impacted me until I opened myself to be willing to hear or see anything different. So that was a huge shift in thinking.
So one of the things you talked about in the first part of your story was that you had a high degree of satisfaction when you moved into jobs that were legal,
Yes.
that were, and you were working at a fast food place and had some other jobs. And now I know you have a job now with high degree of responsibility. You are supervising people. You are helping a company in a very big way. And so, do you remember what that shift was to get you from that? Yes, that was a lot to celebrate and deserve celebrating, being in a place where you were doing something legal, doing something that made you feel productive and a part of society. And now here you're doing something that's that was a huge shift from that into what you're doing now. Do you remember how that shift happened?
Yeah, I think a lot of things contributed to that. One thing in particular, and you'll hear me on a lot of episodes, always encourage good therapy if that is what you need. So I had a therapist at the time a while after I had moved here, and found one that specialized in trauma and things I needed, who I don't see anymore since COVID. But she really instilled in me and helped reinforce my value. And so even when I had started in fast food and things like that, I still didn't really value myself a lot. I felt better because I'm like, oh, I'm quote unquote normal, right? I didn't even know what normal was or why I was even comparing it. I think it was just maybe someone around me or a TV show I saw. I was just like, oh, that's what normal people do. That's where a lot of my education came from early years, was the TV. And so working with this particular therapist in Dallas really helped me start considering that I might be worth more than what I had put upon myself. And it's not so much things I put upon myself to start, but as I got older in my teens, when I left my early 20s, I reinforced what I was told. So at that point, that was my decision to continue those beliefs, right? So working with her really did shift, and she was extremely encouraging. So I never stepped foot in high school. I did not get my GED until I moved to Texas. And working with her, I had just started college maybe a year before I had started seeing her, and to get my bachelor's in psychology. And she just was a really pivotal point in my life to help aid in that belief of, oh, I can do something, and my past does not have to define where I'm at now. And that was the biggest mind shift. It did not happen overnight. It was still a daily battle some days, to believe that. And so she was one of many people I've met since being here in Texas that really just encouraged me. And sometimes it wasn't a specific, like, you're doing such a great job. It was just the presence of them in my life and being able to feel like, oh, I wasn't waiting. Well, I was waiting for the other shoe to drop, but eventually learned that I didn't need to do that.
Yes.
So unlearning that behavior over time was like, I don't have to do that. So that was the biggest point. And then graduating. Now I do office management and accounting, which oddly enough, my psychology degree comes in quite well in the industry that I work in. If y'all are listening, I love you. So yeah, and it's odd how that's worked out, and my degree in psychology isn't the only reason why I'm here now and the things I'm working on. It definitely has shaped my mind, and really I took psychology to understand myself, like most people take psychology do, because we're like, we're crazy, we need to know what's wrong, so we're gonna get a degree in this. Um, that in my past has really aided me, and I've got, well, the time you're listening to this, I will have my national certification for Pilates as an instructor. That and my degree and things really have got me to where I'm at, and working with Kim and just seeing that vision and being able to continue growing while using the lessons I've learned in hopes to help other people. But yeah, that encouragement from my therapist at the time was just
It was huge.
made the world a difference. And it's not that I hadn't met nice people before her. Of course, there was definitely, even growing up, there were some great people that I can think back about now. And I think the difference too was I was in a place to be willing to receive it. So had someone told me the things she told me even 2 or 3 years prior, I'm not sure would have had the same effect on me at that moment, because I wasn't in a place to be receptive of it. And that was just a God thing, universe, whatever's meant to be. And that was the right time in the right place and who I needed to hear it from.
Perfect teacher at the right time.
Exactly. Sometimes we ask, why didn't I learn this sooner? Well, for me, I wouldn't have learned it sooner, because obviously I was not ready. And who knows, I'm sure people have probably told me the same lesson many times, and 10 years later, like, oh, you finally get it. I'm like, get what? I just learned this. Like, I've been telling you. You have. So we have to be in a place of wanting to grow and to be able to hear that from people and be receptive of it.
So I know, but our audience, I think, would like to know that your body work, Pilates, has been huge in your growth and development and your healing. So tell us about that and how it has been instrumental for you in your healing.
Yeah, it's another huge step in why I've taken time and energy to invest in my certification and myself. So I started Pilates back in 2021, really just a few years ago, actively doing Pilates at a local studio, and started really questioning what the benefit was and what I could gain from it for myself. So my previous therapist for years, well, for as long as I had seen her, had kept trying to get me to do yoga. She was a yoga instructor as well. And she's like, let's just do some breath work. And I'm like, nope, not happening. Nope, can't do it. She's like, it's just breathing. I'm like, no, I don't breathe. So no. Oh, poor thing was very patient with me. So when I had decided, I was looking at Pilates, I was like, oh, I should do this. And I've surprised myself. And so I started going and started feeling really good. It was hard at first, just reconnecting with myself in that aspect. So spiritually and physically. So if you're doing Pilates or yoga or any other type of meditation, it's hard to you can't avoid the connection with yourself. It's there, you're thinking about it, it's part of the process. It's not anything, maybe some people can mindlessly do it. I can't. I'm always thinking and feeling it. So when I started, I was nervous and it was kind of uncomfortable. Again, we talk about change and being uncomfortable. And I kept pushing through. And over the few years, really beginning to connect back with my body in a positive way, because anytime I thought about anything, if I saw myself or any type of movement, really, I just associated it with negative thoughts 24/7. And so Pilates has really helped me reconnect with myself in a healthy, positive way and not a bad, guilty, shameful, overwhelmed, stressful kind of. It doesn't have that negative attachment to it now. And so January, I started class to get my national certification because that is one of my goals. Doing the podcast and things like this, I want to help. And I also want to get into somatic work. So working trauma out of the body physiologically and how that's really helped me. There's so much energy and so much stuff we store. The Body Keeps Score is an amazing book. And how, I never knew that. And so not just about the things from my, childhood, things in my young adulthood that crazy stuff I was getting into. I'm like, oh, that all physically has an effect. And, rheumatoid arthritis and fibromyalgia and Pilates I was looking for something to help with that. And really realizing there's so much healing through movement. I just happened to find it through Pilates. There's tons of methods, tons of ways people will find that. And so it's been my vision the past few years, is to really be able to offer that and have a place, for anyone to just come and find what healing they're needing and just be a guide. You still have to do the work yourself and get in. And hopefully things in my past and part of my story can at least give you some encouragement and give me the ability to just walk that with you.
Yes. I know that being physically strong and working out has always helped me. And it wasn't just yoga, it was lifting weights. When I first started working out, I started running, and that was in college. And my first year of college, and that's when aerobics was getting big, and Jane Fonda and
Stair stepper.
Yes, the Stairmaster and Taibo and all that was out. But I had never been. I was always skinny growing up, so working out gave me some body confidence. But then I also discovered that it helped me keep my mind clear. It helped me with my emotions. It's almost like I was venting and channeling emotion through my body. And so I love being in shape. I love feeling physically strong, but I know it also makes me mentally strong, and it also makes me emotionally strong. And for me now, with my spirituality, body, mind, spirit, and heart are all one thing. I believe they're all connected. So part of my journey and part of my spirituality is, I consider this my body temple. And I shifted from, because of the sexual abuse in my early life, I was always ashamed of my body and had no confidence about it. And in the beginning, I really had to grapple with, which is an interesting part of sexual abuse, that you start to, even though it's a painful, shameful thing, there's a lot of trauma and abuse, a lot of dysfunction about it, that also your body betrays you, because part of that sexual abuse, there is a feeling good physically.
Your natural response.
Yeah, your natural response to that. And so there's a whole lot of shame about that. And being physically strong and being connected to my body, like you said, in a healthy way, helped me to heal. And then I was no longer associating my body with shame and dysfunction and trauma. And I still have some friends sometimes that kind of tease me about my being so, I think their word would probably be obsessed more than dedicated or committed to physical health. But for me, it really is about mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical.
Yeah.
And knowing that I am so much more peaceful when I feel physically strong. And it did help heal me in ways that I did not expect. It really did. And that's why I taught exercise for so many years, just because it wasn't something I wanted to share with other people.
Yeah, that's you bring up a good point, talking about it's more than just the physical aspect. And so when I started Pilates, it was very much physical minded because it's like, hey, my weight I've been up, down, sideways, back, forth, eating disorders, not eating disorders, all sorts of both ends of the spectrum. And so for me, my initial thought was, I need to get in shape. I've lost weight. I need to like get some muscles now. And quickly found out how mentally healing it was and emotionally healing. And, people are like, oh, it's just Pilates or you're just yoga or something. But just being intentional about where I'm moving my arm, how I'm moving my leg, that in itself was huge and allowing myself to think and leave it at that. I'm just moving my hand. I'm just doing this. I'm going that. It doesn't equate to good or bad, just neutral, right? For a lot of my life, things have been very black and white, good or bad. It's not okay, it's good or bad. Which are you? Because I don't know how to deal with someone that's just kind of good. It's you're good or you're bad.
Yes.
So, Pilates for me, there may be something that I can only do halfway, and that is like, oh, wait a minute. I should either be completely not able to do this or I need to do this all the way. And being able to accept, oh, I can do this halfway and tomorrow will be different and the next day and the next day. So it's affected me in many aspects, not just physically, mentally, emotionally, just, well, all of it. And it allowed me to open up my mind to more thoughts. And we talked about digging into beliefs and giving myself the freedom and permission to question. And Pilates through movement has really helped move some of that energy out in those thoughts. And it, someone once said, make your passion your profession. And that's exactly what I'm doing. So I can't say enough good things about Pilates and movement and really the healing that can come from it. And healing is unlimited. We're the only ones that limit ourselves with our healing. And so if you believe something can be healing, it is. And Pilates has been that, among other things, has been that most recent path that I'm enjoying. So.
Yeah, and I think part of this questioning period is to always stay in a questioning mode and being willing to shift and being willing to be open and being willing to try and not, and if the trying doesn't work out, that not judging it as failure and saying, oh,
Right.
this is just a signal that I probably need to shift in another direction. Learn something from that if it didn't work. However, it brought me to another conclusion or to another question, and that's always good.
Yeah.
That's always good. And I take those wins.
Yeah. I've had plenty of them. It's like, And as things go on and we dig in, we realize that more like, oh, there's opportunity. What did I learn? There's something better, the next thing. And I've gotten quicker at realizing that and not getting hung up so much when something hasn't gone the way I thought and not automatically deeming it as a failure and like that didn't work out how I thought. However, probably worked out better than I thought it would. And so, or in a different way.
Yes.
And being open and willing to accept that I may not understand what's going on in this moment, but trusting myself and trusting the good that's out there that this is going to, turn into what it needs to be. So it's letting go of the false control we think we have.
There really is none.
No, there's not.
Yeah.
We tell ourselves that. So once you get to that point of letting the false control go, when others may think something failed, you don't see that as failure because you were never in control of that. It was happening anyways.
It's all
And
a
you look
journey,
at it,
yeah.
go, that's what was supposed to happen.
Yes.
Doesn't mean there's not pain and things don't hurt or there's sadness or anger, frustration. Of course, and there will be. This isn't sugarcoat life is great now that you just accept all and everything's perfect. No. We're just quicker to go, okay, we can process this, have our time that we need to go through that emotion and continue on, you know.
So in the last, I've only known you about a year. And then
Seems
this
like longer.
seems like longer in a good way.
Yeah.
And
Where you been all my life?
this last year, I've watched you grow exponentially in many areas, not just spiritually. Because you and I talk, we always have. We've started having these deep conversations months ago. And so, what would you say was one of your biggest lessons in this last year that's really gotten to you to this? I see you in a place that where you are so much more joyful. Mm-hmm. In fact, I can see joy where I could not see a lot of that when you first came here. I knew from our conversations you had done a lot of work, but now I'm seeing joy in your life, and now I'm seeing you're so much freer and so much open than you were a year ago.
Yeah, my face might actually know I'm happy now.
It does.
Before it was just confused.
So what was a huge lesson for you in the last year?
Biggest lesson is through some external work I've done is accepting, not just believing, but actually the process of accepting that I am valuable and I deserve to be loved and to give love, and not just saying that. There's days I still question it, but the questioning is just a few seconds instead of a few hours, days, months, years. It's okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that really has been the biggest.
That's huge. And I know because we have these conversations, whether we're texting or talking or whatever, that even when you're questioning your value in a moment, you are asking questions about why am I here? What triggered me to get here?
Right.
And I applaud you for that you are always willing to ask that question. Okay, I'm triggered. You know you're triggered.
Yep.
You are highly self-aware now, and that's been growing by leaps and bounds. And you're willing to ask those questions to, swim in the deep end again and say, okay, something happened to get me to this questioning about my own worth in this moment. And what is that? And what do I need to heal? And then being willing to step forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I think life is always going to be, our journeys, our paths are always going to be full of questions in these moments. And it's what we do in these moments. And like I said, some questions that we used to dwell on for years, maybe we're thinking about it for the moment, and that's okay. Perfect healing doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that you'll never question your value, your worth. That's not my opinion isn't of that. Others may disagree. It's the turnaround and what do we tell ourselves in those moments? Because to say, well, we're never going to have any doubt anymore, I think is a false sense of security, because I'm human. I'm going to have emotions and those thoughts are there. However, the difference is I am choosing if I'm accepting them in that moment. Yes. And some days it's a quick sit down and shut up and out the door you go. And some mornings are like, let me think about this for a second. And that's okay. So, yeah. Hopefully listening to this has given you some encouragement for this week. We are so excited to get into July soon and all the fun things we want to plan. So
more conversations, more swimming in the deep end. So after hearing Molly's story, you may have been inspired, triggered.
Yep.
Some questions come up for you, and as always, the choice is yours. You can sit on the edge with your toes in the water and make no significant change in your life, or you can swim in the deep end with us and take another step closer to healing and peace, freedom and joy. Check out these recordings on YouTube, Swimming in the Deep End. And you can also go to my website, thecalltopeace.com, for a link to that YouTube channel. And we hope you'll be in touch, and we hope you are swimming in the deep end. Thank you, Molly, for being open and vulnerable. And thank you for taking steps forward and being brave about your journey. I love that about you.
Yeah, that's been good. And you encourage me by your authenticity and transparency. So it's mutual. Well, we will see you on the flip side. Thanks.
Thank you.